Thank you, Diane. All right, I'll put my stuff down. Great. I want to just thank everybody for coming, inviting me to be here today. I'm just wondering if everybody can hear me okay. Yes, good. I once did a talk in Illinois where I had been talking for about an hour, and then they said, "Oh, we can't hear you." Okay, I gotta make sure and check this right away. Nobody said anything. So if something funky, you can't hear me, or you don't understand something, go ahead, I'd be happy to repeat it, or the curtain's falling down, something, please speak up. That would be great. So I come from the Madison, Wisconsin area, so pretty much in their neighborhood here, and just a couple hours away. And I actually live in Stoughton, a little Norwegian town, just 20 minutes south of there on a little horse farm. And I have 3 horses. One is going to be 33 years old. Wow. Yes, very old for a horse. His name is Rocket Powered Slider. Yeah. And it took me 6 weeks to figure out that name, because I thought, I don't want to ride on top of a horse named Rocket. How about like Old Slow Ed or something like that? No, my name is Rocket Powered Slider. Okay, so I live with him, and Cajun is 21-year-old Morgan mare, and then I have a 7-year-old teen boy who is boarded at another stable because he picks on my old horses. Yeah. So at the horse stable, he is out with a loud and rowdy group. Yes, gigantic thoroughbreds that they bite and run all day long. So he's very happy there. And then I have dogs, 2 little dogs, and a bunch of cats. So it's really wonderful. So who here has horses? We have, okay, just one person, okay, great. And how about dogs? So we got dogs. Ooh, lots of hands for that. And cats. There you go. Ooh, lots of cats. Okay, great, wonderful. And I'm usually do a lot of my speaking at horse events. So I'm used to having, the whole audience go up with the horses, because that's the animal that I communicate with the most. Is horses, because you're riding on top of them. Yeah, you want to make sure they're just as happy as possible, right? You don't end up going to the rodeo or something. This is not rodeo riding. This is nice, calm riding. So I work with horses the most, and then probably dogs and cats, kind of an even Steven on that one. And so I live at my little farm in Stoughton, and that's actually where I do most of my work. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about how that happens, because I do 80 to 90% of my work over the phone. And I don't even see the animals with my eyes at all. Yeah, I have a picture of them, and I don't even need the picture. I just like it. I get to open the mail and go, oh, look at that one. It's really sweet. And it's just because I'm so busy that I'm just working so much. It's just more efficient, and I think it's just as effective. And is seeing the animal, because sometimes when I'm seeing their physical body, especially at a different place where I'm working, they just want to talk about the smells. Like, what's that smell? What's that smell? And I'm like, wait, your mom is not paying me all this money to talk about the sniffs on the floor. Exactly. So when they're at home and they're relaxed and we call on the phone, that's when we're going to get the best conversation. And so that's what I found out, and I've been working and doing this for 9 years professionally. And although I started doing this as a child, and it was so amazing and wonderful to be connected with the animals, and it just always was. The connection was always there. And it wasn't just animals, it was nature. It was plants, rocks, the wind, trees, everything. I was just in this amazing space of connection and beauty. And then when I started growing up, and actually a moment when I was 5 years old, that I realized that not everybody is doing this. I really absolutely thought this is just every single person had this connection. And I was playing outside, and I looked across the street from an apartment complex. And so there's always a lot of children coming over. And one day, I was playing with a girl, and a dog came running over, a golden-colored dog, and I was responding to the dog and saying, "Oh my gosh, you poor thing, your family is so noisy, that's why you run away?" Yeah, and she said, wait a minute, how do you know that about that family? She said, "That's true. I mean, I live over there," and she said, "You're only 5 years old, and I know you're not allowed out of your yard, right? So you wouldn't have been over there." And she said, how did you know that? I'm like, "The dog is saying it right now. You can't hear the dog." Yeah. She said, no. She said, "That's strange. You know, that's a little unusual. I don't know anybody who talks to animals." Well, I thought, well, I'm the one who can hear. You can't hear. You know, I think you have the problem, not me. Wow. So that was the awakening. That was the moment when I realized the world that I thought I was in wasn't exactly the way it was out there. Yes. And it was a wonderful moment because I got validated, yes, which at that time I didn't really need. It was nice. But the other thing is I was sad because I thought, what do you mean there's so many people who don't have this connection? You've never heard of this? This is unusual, this is strange. How can that be? What kind of society is this? Right? Don't you wonder and think, uh-oh, how do I go back into another place, yeah? So it was that moment when I was 5 to realize that. So I pretty much decided to keep it to myself, and the animal that I communicate with the most, because I wasn't allowed to have my own animals, were squirrels. And I had large trees around my house, and there were squirrels everywhere. Well, okay, we're having a conversation with the squirrels, and they were darlings. They were absolutely darlings, and I enjoyed that very much. I also had a special, you know, before the pet rock of the 70s. Who remembers the pet rock? Yeah, you all had one, right? Well, before that, in the late 60s, I had my special rocks. Although my father didn't realize that, and I would leave them out, and he put them with the gravel. Dad, these are my special rocks. They don't belong with the gravel. Isn't this obvious? So I'd have to go digging through the gravel to find my special pet rocks, you know. And so a lot of amazing things happened, and you know, that way when I was a child and connecting. And eventually I got older and I became a teenager, and I'd never met anybody else who had ever talked about this connection. And the more that I felt kind of the negativity of that closing in on me, I thought, you know, I just want to be like everybody else. Right? So I want this to stop. I want this to just turn off. I don't know what to do about this connection anymore. And it did. It just stopped. It just clicked, turned off. And you know, it was one of the saddest moments of my life. Absolutely quiet. Nothing. Just me. It's lonely. And what do we seek more than anything on the world, on the earth here? What do we seek more than anything?
Well, connection.
Connection. Yes, exactly. So I find that through animal communication, it's the pathway of connection. It's the pathway of the divine. Opening my heart, listening, quieting myself. Yes, wonderful. So that was my teen years, and you know, I did the regular teenage things. I was a cheerleader, a pom-pom girl, baton twirler, a basketball player. You know, I just did everything. And I think part of that was to try to fill in, right? Who's really busy? Who's really, really busy? If you can say really busy, then you can just kind of keep ahead of that disconnection. Yeah. And so I was doing that as a child already, just signing up for everything. And then the moment that separates everything for me, which is my car accident, which is my near-death experience. So everything now is in terms of before and after. Okay? And maybe some of you have moments like that in your life. Yes, before this major incident. And so about my car accident. And let me just take another step backwards to kind of get you ready for that moment and what else was happening in my life. And I was in college, and it's my second year. And I was suddenly introduced to, I had a new job, a part-time job that I had. And at this new job, I met my boss. And you know what? I fell in love with her like that. Right. Now, I was raised in a heterosexual, the heterosexual agenda. Right, you hear about the homosexual agenda, right? You know, and I was just, when I was driving down here to Chicago, I was watching or listening to a radio show, a Christian radio show that was very interesting. And they were talking about the homosexual agenda being pushed out there and turning people into gay and lesbians. And I thought, I was in the heterosexual agenda if there was one. I never even heard the word gay or lesbian. I didn't know one single person. I never saw one single book, one single show, one single poster, one single anything. And yet, I saw this woman. I was in love. That was that. Great, fantastic. Now I know what true love is about. Oh, this is so wonderful. So I went home and I told my mom, and she started screaming. Ray, get the Bible! I'm like, Mom, stop. You know, and hey, I was raised in a parochial school. You know, I went to Sunday school. I even taught Sunday school. A Christian high school. I went to church every single Sunday. You know, that's what our family was. And I literally thought this was going to be like a 2-minute conversation. And after she stopped screaming, she said, I'm calling the minister. The minister came right over, and within about 10 minutes, I was excommunicated from my church of 20 years. Oh, what happened? I was just a cheerleader, the honor roll girl, and now I'm the black sheep of the family on drugs, and the devil has taken me over. Really, within about an hour. And so I was a little shocked by that. I was a little shocked. And so I was kicked out of my parents' house, and my brothers and family, and my nephews and nieces that I had helped raise, I was banished. I was no longer allowed to see them or talk to them or anything. It was sad, very sad. And you know, when I think about some of the things that I've survived, which I'm going to tell you about my car accident, which was incredible, it was surviving my family kicking me out and not talking to me, and bad. But you know what the true gift of this is that I can say now? And I never would have done this for anybody except for my mother, right? To see the gift in that, and see that my family was pushing me out into the world to be able to share that. And to really get and know in my heart, and for you to know in your heart, that you're okay, that you're lovable. And even in the face of a lot of the challenging religious beliefs. Now, is there anybody else out there in the audience today who is familiar with what I'm talking about? Some of the challenges, how they were raised religiously. And there's, okay? Nobody knows what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, there we go. Yeah, sometimes people, I know sometimes when I'm in the audience, I don't like raising my hand. You know, it's like, oh, I can't get my hand up. So I love really high arms, really high. Put them out there really good so I can see. Like, no, I'm shy, I don't want to raise my hand. So yeah, it helps us have really great feedback. But yeah, it was very challenging. But it really helps set the stage for what I'm going to be talking about. So that's the background that I came from. So I left my family, went off to college, kind of like with my, you know, you've seen a dog with his tail kind of tucked under. That's kind of how I felt like. I just kind of slinked off. Very, very sad, not sure what to do and how to feel about myself. And, you know, my mom's just saying, stop it. Just stop all of this. And I felt like I had just found a part of myself. I was really excited about this. It felt wonderful. It felt pure. And I just wanted to continue on that. So then in December of 1987, right after Christmas, I was heading to Florida. And I was tired of the Wisconsin cold. And my girlfriend, we were artists, and we were going to head to Key West. That's where the plan was. And so we had gotten into Florida, and there was 4 of us that went down together. And 2 of the people I really didn't know, and they were there to help share gas and driving. And so we got into Florida, and we stopped at this gas station. I go ahead and go in, and I see, the 2 doors, men, women. And there was no out of order sign on the men or the women. And so I go in, it's a very small bathroom. Going to the bathroom, and then I look under the stall wall, and I see large boots coming in. I mean, huge boots, men's boots. I'm thinking, what is he doing in here? What is going on? And then I hear, telepathically, and remember, I had shut this off, and I hadn't heard anything telepathically since I was a child. I hear inside my mind, I'm here to give you a message. A really big event is going to be happening, and I want to prepare you, and I want you to let you know this. I thought, gosh, I was like, okay. And I didn't know what to do, and I just quickly finished up and ran back outside. I said, okay, let's go, let's move on. And I said, I'll drive this time. And the woman who had been driving, Maya, she said, no, I'm driving. I said, no, you've been driving for about 8 hours now. It's really my turn. It's my van. Give me the keys. And she went. She refused to give them to me. And if you've ever been in an accident or another, event in your life, and you just play it over and over and over and over again, don't you? Trying to understand it. And so I know at that moment it was another kind of divine intervention. So I said, okay, and I get into the van, I'm in the back of it. So we're driving along, and we're going over a hill, and I don't know what the speed limit was at that time, 55 miles an hour, going over the hill. And at the bottom of the hill is a stoplight. Okay? You've seen some poorly designed interstates that are that way. And already the cars are stopped. And we had to slam on our brakes. Maya slammed on the brakes to stop. And she did, within inches of the car in front of us. And we thought, oh, great. Okay, all right, everything is okay. But there was a semi coming over that same hill, going 65 miles an hour, speeding. And when he saw us over the ridge, well, he slammed on the brakes, and he was not able to stop. We were the second vehicle hit. Runs into us, and then he jackknifes and slams into the side of the van, and it spins us and slams us into part of kind of a guardrail that extends off of a bridge overpass. And you're just stunned at first. And one of my first thoughts was I had just gotten a special necklace for Christmas. And amazingly, I could still see it sitting on the ledge where I had set it. I thought, I'm going to get that necklace. So I go to reach for the necklace, and my hand is stopped. I physically cannot reach the necklace. It is, I've never had that happen to me before. So I slowly follow my gaze up, and what do I see? Beautiful sight. My guardian angel. I thought, oh, I haven't seen you since I was a child. Oh, this is wonderful. And my guardian angel, I want to say she, but it was kind of like a she-he, like a very beautiful male or a very more masculine female. And I remember my girlfriend was saying, what are you doing? Come on, we've got to get moving. I'm just standing there. just in absolute peace for the moment. So she says, leave the necklace and hurry to the front of the van. Okay. So I go to the front of the van, and by the time I get up there, it's already flames and smoke is all around me. Well, I kind of just sat down in between the captain's chairs. And I thought, well, I have two decisions, right? I can sit here and die, let the smoke come in, and I'll just fall asleep, and then I'll just die. Or I can try to get out. And I just thought, I just can't sit here. And you know, Maya and her boyfriend, who were in the front, they were out. I don't even remember how they got out. I didn't even see how they got out. They were just gone. Well, after checking all the doors and windows, nothing would open, and I realized that the driver's window was open about that much. I thought, I'm a thin person, but I don't know if I can fit through that. I can't believe they fit through that. So I decided that's it. I'm going to jump through the flames and get out. You know, you've ever been up to that place? I mean, the adrenaline is incredible. You are life and death here. And sometimes you just make decisions that you feel you have to. You only have seconds to make up your mind. So I get out the window and I jump through the flames. And now here's the neat part. I said, you know, I don't want to do this. I've changed my mind. I want out. And so everything freezes. And I'm suspended in the middle of the flames. And I put my arms up and I said, take me. I want to go home. And these beautiful arms reached down to me, and behind the arms and the glowing face, I see all these white dots, which I knew were other beings of light, maybe 100 of them. And you know, it took me about 17 years to figure out who those arms were, but I just figured it out. It's the arms of Jesus. And why it took me so long to figure that out is it was because I could see it was Jesus. But I blocked that because growing up, Jesus was made so negative to me. It's about sin, judging. If you don't know Jesus, right, you've heard that one, do you know Jesus? If you don't know Jesus, you might go to hell, right? Well, how do you know if you really know Jesus? Yes. But Jesus was there. Whether I knew Jesus or not, he was there for me. Absolutely. And you know, I once had one of my students ask me, well, yeah, Jesus was there to save you from the fire. And I said, no, he wasn't there to save me. He was there to support me because I called. That's why I called and asked for this. Two other neat points. So there I am, ready to let my spirit fly out. And here comes my guardian angel again. And she said, no, wait, stop. Remember, you said you were going to live this time. You're not going to go. Don't die. Don't go. You were going to stay and live this time. I thought, what do you mean this time? No, there's only one time in the Lutheran faith. You got one. That's it. What are you talking about? I've done this other times. He said, well, you know. She said, we'll get to that at another time. But not only that, you knew at this moment that you would be weak. And you called for me to be here to support you and remind you of what you chose to do. And you're gonna survive this. I know it's scary. I know it's painful. But the gifts you're gonna receive for your heart and your soul and for other people are gonna be immense. take a deep breath and I realize she's right. And I let my hands come back down. And Jesus nods his head and the light beams. And off they go. And then another gift happens. The spirit of the fire comes to me. Who would have known fire had a spirit? She said, I've come to you as transformation because I love you, not because I want to harm you. It's because of the greatest desire to see your soul growth and to accomplish what you set out. I am here as a gift and I love you. She said, you're not going to remember this for a long time, and actually you're going to have a lot of anger when you got through this, but you will eventually remember me. And so she said, it's time to continue now. So I nod my head at them, and my guardian angel pushes me through the flames, and I land on the grass, dry, hard grass. Now this part I'm going to tell you is actually the most painful part. You think being burned in a fire has got to be, one of the most excruciating things that there is. But my body and my mind kind of just spared me from that. And it wasn't until about 5 years later that I felt some of the pain of actually being in a fire. So if you ever worry about getting really hurt, you're going to be protected. It's going to be okay. But here I am on the grass, and then I could feel people running to my side to help me. And they said, the man said, we've got to get her out of here because this thing is going to blow. And so as carefully as they can, they lift me up, but they didn't lift me up high enough. And so I was dragged, my raw body just dragged across the grass. And it was so painful that I couldn't even make a sound. That was painful. But they were also being so loving at the same time. So finally the ambulance comes, and I am taken to an emergency room in Florida, and there was a nurse saying, what's your name? Where are you from? What's your telephone number? Your parents' telephone number, family members? Tell us. Well, now my girlfriend was there, and she didn't like my parents. You can understand why. They weren't really open to her. And she's saying, don't tell him. Don't tell the nurse anything. And the nurse said, every piece of, your driver's license, it's gone. The people who you traveled with don't even know your last name. If you don't tell us, we don't have anything on you. We don't know how to find any family members. So as I'm trying to memorize my parents' phone number, and thank goodness they had the same number for 30 years, another nurse comes up to her and says, oh, your sons are on the phone. She's like, oh, gosh, that's right. Oh, I was going to meet him an hour ago. She turns to the nurse and she says, tell them I need to be with this woman. I will call them back, but I need to be here for her. It was the most loving feeling that I felt. And even though I was just in excruciating pain, it went away with her love and presence to me. Well, I told her my parents' phone number. And then she gave me a shot of morphine. And out I went. Well, I wake up a couple of weeks, maybe it was a week, something, a while later, in the intensive care unit. And my parents are there. And they're being very helpful. They're being very helpful to me. And I spend 3 months in the intensive care. And I have if I survive, now I have a 3% chance to live. Okay? And if I do survive, I'm going to be 98% disabled. They told my family that I wouldn't walk, And my left leg was paralyzed and had a drop foot. And they almost cut off my right leg. I had ulnar nerve damage. My elbow joints did not move. They didn't know if I'd grow any hair. Okay, this is my hair. And the list went on and on. And my lungs collapsed during that time, so I was on a respirator. And every day and every moment, I fought to stay alive. And I do mean that word, fought. Because I was like scraping every minute to breathe. And the staff was very, very supportive of me. And then one day, though, I suddenly just couldn't breathe. I had no air. And they call that a crash, when a patient crashes. Is anybody doctors, nurses, if you've heard that? I see a lot of nodding. And well, when I heard that word, I thought I was in another car accident. I thought, what, we're about to crash? How could I be in another crash? I'm in the hospital, what? What does that mean? Yes, please. You know, sometimes the words they use around you are not always the best. You know, not always for promoting peace. You know, it's not really peace-inducing here. So, suddenly I have no air. Okay, so now I'm right on the brink of death again. And, you know, it's not that bad. Who was afraid of dying here? I mean, okay, okay, good, very good. Good with the arms. Very good. Oh, that's really good. So, you know, it's not so bad. You just don't have air. You know, you're just going, there's no air. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You know? And I thought that they had taken my oxygen. And so I'm grabbing at the staff who's surrounding me and going bonkers trying to help me. I'm just grabbing at them, going, give me my oxygen. They didn't have it. So I finally decide that's not right. This is not working. There's got to be something else. So I look around and I see a door. Kind of a door like that, but it was a single door. And I felt that I got out of my hospital bed and I crawled over to the door. And when I crossed the sash, suddenly I was standing. And I could breathe. And I looked at my body and I had no marks on it. It's perfectly smooth. And I was strong. And I was in a starlit space. And the floor looked like it had a thin layer of water on it, kind of shimmering. Oh, this is really nice. This is beautiful. And I was there by myself, but I wasn't afraid. I was very content. So I thought, well, I'm going to start walking around a bit. So I'm walking in this beautiful space, and in the distance, I see three beings. And in my mind, I hear ascended masters. Okay? Even though I'd never heard that word before in my life, I knew they were ascended masters. And as they come forward, they greet me telepathically. Right? Inside my heart. Now remember, I had turned off my telepathic abilities, right? But the really neat thing for all of you who want to have connection with animals or nature is that I didn't have to quickly take a class to reawaken my abilities, did I? It really was just right there. And it always was, and it always is for each and every one of you. And so I telepath back, hello. And so they come closer, and they look like kind of university professors to me. And I felt like I knew them, but I didn't know them well enough to really embrace. So we didn't embrace, we just nod to each other. And now I didn't see, at this point, or even for most of it, any of my relatives. I didn't have that happen. So the Ascended Masters come forward and they say, welcome. And I say, thank you. And I said, well, this is so nice. Gosh, this feels really good. And hey, I thought I was going to hell. Right? But this must be heaven, because this is really good. And then I thought, oh my gosh, maybe they don't know what my family's been saying about me. Maybe they don't know what the minister has said. Maybe they don't know that I'm in a relationship with a woman. Uh-oh. I became really frightened, and I started to cry. And I thought, as soon as I tell them, they're just going to push that plunger, and I'm going to just swish down to hell. Right? I mean, I was really scared. And so I said, well, I better tell you, because maybe you don't know that I'm a lesbian, and I'm in a relationship with a woman, and I know how sinful and bad that is, and ugh. And they went, oh, we know you. I'm like, oh, you do? Yes. We know everything about you. And we know your heart. And we know how wonderful and beautiful your heart is. And that issue, it doesn't matter to us. It's not the issue, and actually it's missing the point. I'm like, it's not the issue. Oh no, you haven't talked to my mother. This is a huge issue. I'm arguing with the Ascended Masters. Oh, right. How often do you get to be there? Here I'm just arguing. Okay. I said, no, this is a huge, huge, huge issue down on earth. People are hurting one another because they don't like gays and lesbians. They're saying bad things. It's a big, big deal. And they said, we know, and it's not important to us. Oh, okay. So I said, well, what is the point then? And they smile at me. I'm going to catch on a little. And they say, we want to know how you have given. How I have given. I said, well, I don't know. So they send me, they infuse within me the pure essence of giving. So I can kind of match where I've been to what pure giving is. And when they did that, I realized that I'd only been giving about that much. Yeah. And they didn't mean donating money. Okay. Some people like to just do that way. They're like, oh, here, it's a $10 donation there, I've given. Right? No. They didn't mean that. So I said, well, I guess I haven't given. I guess I didn't know what true giving means. And they said, yes, and that's why you're here, because they said you've lived many of your lives based on fear. I thought, here is this life thing coming up again. Wait a minute, I was, born Lutheran, one life, why do you keep saying all these other lifetimes? And they said, because you have, and let us show you. So they went through and they showed me 3 different lifetimes of where I made decisions based on fear. And then we talked about choosing. And that is a phrase they use very often. You have a choice. Are you going to choose love, or are you going to choose fear? And even if I chose fear, which I had been for many centuries, they were still going to love me. Isn't that the great thing? They weren't there to judge me. They were there to assist me and help me learn. So I said, okay, I understand. But what did I do? I went back to the lesbian thing. I said, but I don't really believe that you can love me if I'm a lesbian. And they smile and nod at each other. And they stepped back. And they opened the door. And this beautiful pink white light, kind of like this ebbing, comes forward, comes to my feet, and starts flowing up my entire body. Beautiful pink white light, and every cell of me knew acceptance, peace, love, joy, happiness. That sensation that I would get and I lived in when I was a child. And I said, absolutely, this is who I truly am. I am love. I am connection. I am joy. And with that, the light grew. And then I knew it was God. And everywhere was this beautiful light that looked kind of like the northern lights. And it says to me, child, let's dance, let's rejoice, let's play. I'm like, yes. And we're all connecting in this light, and I thought, I am everything. I am everyone and every single thing. There is absolutely no separation. And I'm feeling this presence and the love of God that is not judging whatsoever. It is impossible for God to be judging. And I tried. I was looking for it, and it wasn't there. And so the light is swirling around me, and I'm continuing to feel the oneness of everything. And then I said, I'm the dogs, I'm the cats, I'm the trees, I'm you, I'm the chair, I'm the light, I'm my mother. Oh no, wait a minute. No, I'm drawing a line there. I am not my self-righteous, judging mother. And you know what they said? Okay. And the light was gone. And there we were, staying in that star-filled space where I had started with the Ascended Masters. And I'm like, oh. They said, every time you judge and separate yourself, that's what happens. And you know, you get a million chances. That's the good news, isn't it? We get to keep learning acceptance, opening, connection, remembering who we truly are. And we get to practice it here on Earth. Yes, which is more challenging. So the rest of my near-death experience, they took me on a tour. I met another council where we talked more about what I was going to do when I came back to Earth. And one of those things was to reawaken my gift to talk to the animals and share that with others. So I thought, okay, all right, great, I've got a game plan, I'm set. And finally it was time to go back. Ooh, that was hard. Now I agreed to go back, but I didn't like it. And so a gigantic angel came to pick me up. Now an archangel. Anybody here ever seen an archangel? Oh, yeah, good. Yes, wonderful. I mean, their hand is like as big as this room. They're mammoth. I mean, my guardian angel was into the whole, I don't know, maybe like 10 feet tall. But an archangel is mammoth. So the archangel came and picked me up. And the wind started blowing, and I stepped on the angel's hand. Plop! And I was back in my body in the hospital. And now one of my favorite nurses named Lydia grabs me by the arm and lifts me up and says, "You're alive! You're alive! Praise the Lord, you fought off the devil." Are they ever going to quit this? I said, "Lydia, there was no devil there. I was really worried about it, and there was no devil. Praise the Lord, you fought off the devil, and you're alive." I thought, and I went to sleep. So that was the near-death experience. Most vivid. And after that, I spent about another month in the hospital, even though they told my family it was going to be probably another 4 months. And suddenly, I'm like, I'm out of here. Where is my walker? I am going home. I don't want to be here anymore. And within about a month, they said about 8 months worth of recovery in 1 month. I was committed and I had support. And the support I had was not only from the staff, but from the prayers and thoughts of people from all over the United States. Because they had a prayer chain for me. And I could feel the effects of the prayers on my body. Your words and your thoughts and your intentions are extremely powerful. So I thank everybody who assisted me. And so I was left to the Florida hospital, the intensive care, and went to a hospital by my parents in Neenah. And spent a total of a year in the hospital. And I spent probably about 6 years recovering, learning how to walk, growing back the nerves in my left leg, getting my arms to move, growing hair. And you know, this is another really neat part for all of you, that even though they told me I was going to be 98% disabled, I would probably be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, I didn't listen to that. And I followed my own source of connection and path that I knew was for me. Even though they had the x-rays, they had computer tests, they had this test and that test. That's not for me. I'm not going that way. Right? So how many of you need to do that for yourselves here today? Yeah, you might have a lot of people in your life saying, no, this, and this. But that's not what your core is saying. That's not what your connection is saying. Yeah. And so I continued to get much better very, very quickly. And the piece that really helped me is to discover what the emotional blocks were that was holding in my body. And through this, I also discovered that I had abuse as a child that I hadn't remembered. So now that started coming back. And when I healed that abuse, my left leg started healing. My arms started moving. And the more emotional clearing that I did, the more my body healed. And really lived the body, mind, spirit connection. And even with my left arm, it was a whole year after the accident that this wasn't working. And the doctor said, you're going to have radical surgery on this. One doctor said, why do you even want your elbow to move anyway? Serious. And I thought, okay, it's been a whole year, it's not any better, but there must be another piece. And I kept searching and searching, and I found it. Yes. And it moves, and I can do a cartwheel. That was my goal in the hospital, to be able to do a cartwheel. Yes, that would happen. So I spent probably about 5-6 years, 24 hours a day, working on healing myself. And with that, I adopted a wonderful dog from the Humane Society. And her name is Makiba. And now, Makiba wasn't so easy. She was a wild thing. And her other people had chained her up outside because she was so naughty and they couldn't control her. And somebody stole her away and took her to the Humane Society, and that's where I adopted her. She was tough, 8-month-old little thing. But you know what she would do? She would stare at me. Anybody here have their animals just stare at you? Yes, exactly. And you're going through all the normal things. You're going through a tree, going through a walk, and they're just like... Sometimes they even stomp their foot. And you're like, honey, sweetie, I don't know. I don't know what you want. Well, that's what Makiba would do. And she wouldn't quit. And I could feel her ascending so hard to me, I'd start to get a headache. I said, okay, I know I'm supposed to remember how to do this. And she said, yes. And she said, I'm here to help you. I'm like, wonderful. But I don't know. I don't know how to do it. Right? So I had to relearn it again, didn't I? I was born with it, turned it off, and relearned it again. So those of you who are interested in communicating with your animals or already talk to your animals, and who does that here? Yes, good, good. So you can do this. You absolutely can do this too, and it is your birthright. Remember, that's where you come from, the other side. Telepathy is your first language. So I'm going to keep staring. And I just thought, okay, I'm just going to be open to it. That's just where I'm going to start. And one day, I was sitting in the living room, on the couch, looking at a magazine. I couldn't see her, or I couldn't hear her. And inside my head, I hear water. I'm like, what is that? I thought, maybe that's my dog. I jump up, I run into the kitchen, and there she is, standing over her empty water bowl. I thought, yes, it's coming back. And that's how it started. One word at a time. One little picture. Then maybe a phrase. And I just kept practicing and practicing and practicing and practicing and being open to it. And she kept helping me. And most of my tests with her were what she wanted out of the kitchen the most. She thought these were great tests. You know, we'd go into the kitchen, and she'd send me what she wanted. I'd hand her something. I don't want that. Come on, pay attention. Right? Until I started getting it right, and I'd get it right more and more and more and more. And then I started practicing with horses. My horse that I had adopted, or he adopted me, Mr. Rocket Powered Slider. And until it grew and grew. And then a number of my friends said, you're really good at this. You're ready to get it out there. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to take some classes. And I took a class by a woman named Adele Tate, who's actually not teaching anymore. And I thought, well, you know, I'm going to see how I do. There's other people in the class. You know, maybe they're going to be great at it, too. And am I good enough to do this professionally? I guess that's what I really wanted to know. Could I make a living at this? I've already had 35 other jobs. Is animal communication a career option for me? You know, I never heard that it was. Did any of you grow up thinking animal communication could possibly be a career option? Now, my list was nurse or teacher. Wow. So anyway, I went to this class, and at the end of the all-day class, I had pages of information about this woman's dog. Just pages. So I thought, oh, I can't wait to hear how I did. Am I making this up? Am I really communicating with this dog? So we go around the class, and so she said, well, Betty, what'd you get from my dog? She said, I got that your dog says hi, and your dog is really happy. And I'm looking at my notes going, oh, I don't know, that's not what I got. She goes to the next person. Clara, how'd you do? Oh, I fell asleep and I didn't get anything. Okay, next, right? Finally comes to me, and I start reading off what I had heard from her dog, Heidi. Heidi says, I'm dying. I can barely walk most of the time, and I collapse. I have blood comes out of my nose, comes out of my ears. I probably will only live about another week. I think, okay. So I share that with her, and she said, that's exactly right, Asia. Oh, okay, hey, not the best news, but I'm really getting here. And at the end of the class, all the students run up to me with pictures of their animals going, here, talk to my cat, talk to my dog, talk to my gerbil, talk to my iguana. And that's how it started. And that was 9 years ago. And it's my full-time job. And I speak at many events around Wisconsin and have talked to about 12,000 animals. I'm really busy. And the way I can talk to that many is because it's on the phone. Because it takes a lot of time for me to drive places, right? So I can be so much more efficient on the phone. Well, the thing is that the phone does not go to your dog's ear. Do not put the phone there. Keep the phone away from your cat's ear, too. The phone is for the humans, right? The animals, they haven't forgotten how to do this, right? So when I connect with them, what I usually use is their name, definitely their name, and the picture of them. And everybody, and every being, and everything has their own energy, or their own like call letters at the radio station. So when I tune in on that frequency of that animal, or like a two-way radio, I can hear them, see the pictures and the emotions that they're having. That's how it works. And I'm just quiet, I'm just like a receiver in your car. You know, you just turn the dial to find the radio station or push the button that you want. That's what I do, is scan for that particular animal and frequency. And it's like a click that I feel inside my body, and there comes the information. Sometimes really loud and clear, and sometimes kind of staticky. Because all animals communicate differently, just like people do. Right? Hey, even though you two can speak English, I'm sure you don't always understand one another, right? How many times with your spouse, oh no, you didn't tell me that. Yes, I did. Okay. Yes, so it's practicing for me, listening and being quietly present. That is the secret right there. And I teach classes in this. And when I work with my students, what I tell them is I'm only helping you remember how to do this. Because you already know. It's already there. You just gotta wake it up. Turn up the dial a little bit and click in. And so once you make that connection, it's great with animals, it's great with nature, spirit guides, angels, and people who've passed. All the same. And it really is our birthright to feel that connection, that divine connection, just like prayer. I mean, how many people use and believe in prayer? That's telepathy with God, and they believe in that. They don't have a hard time in believing that. So we're already doing this all the time. Yes. And so we're going to get an opportunity right now. We're going to do a little meditation. And you're going to get an opportunity for you to quiet yourself, open your heart, open your mind, and call forth one of your animal companions, whether they're living or whether they've passed. Because once a soul exists, it always exists. And yes, animals do go to heaven. Yes. And so we're going to get an opportunity to, again, open your mind and your heart and call forth your animal companion to come and connect with you and see if they have a special message for you. I'm going to have Diane playing her flute to help guide us. Okay, so closing your eyes and being aware of your feet on the ground and your body in the chair. Taking a deep, slow breath. Good. Quieting yourself down, slowing down your energy, quieting your mind. Deep breath and exhale any tension or tightness, and inhale peace and connection. Good. And now imagine that you're walking down a hill, and you're walking down and down the sweet hill. And the sun is shining, You can smell the sweet air, feel the wind in your hair. It's walking down the hill. And as you walk down, your heart is opening. And at the bottom of the hill, you see a dock and a pond. And you walk down to the dock, and you slowly walk out. And it goes way into the middle of the pond. And above you is a mist. And it starts floating down and around you. And this is where your animal companion is going to come to you through this mist and connect with you. And you may call their name, or you may just think the perfect animal companion to come to me. Have the intention of them coming and connecting with you. And just continue breathing slowly and deeply. And they may appear to you. You may feel them around you, a warmth. They may come as a scent, or a tingle, or a sensation. And now with your animal companion there in front of you, allow yourselves to have a little conversation. Maybe there's a question you're wanting to ask them, wanting to know. And maybe you just have a message for them. And I'm going to be quiet now for a few minutes, which equals all the time in the world for you to connect with your beloved animal companion. Finishing up and knowing that you can connect with them at any time, at any place. And thanking them for coming and connecting with you. And seeing them floating off back into the mist, back home. And as you turn around and walk back to shore, back on the dock, back to the shore. And now you will start back up the hill, taking a deep breath and walking up the hill. And smiling, feeling a sense of completion and connection. Very good start. And up the hill. And back up to the top. And now taking another deep, energizing breath. And slowly opening your eyes, smiling and yawning. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to share how this went for them? Okay. Let me just use the microphone. Stand.
Yes. Remarkable, but I saw more love come through that cat's eye shortly before its passing. the more I think about it, I think Christ must have looked at Peter that way. And just pure love. I've not seen that except for one other individual, and it wasn't my husband. But it just wanted to say hello. And all is well. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Wow. Yes, it's, that's why we have animals, because they challenge us too, but they give us so much love and connection and remind us. I mean, I think there's a lot of people who grew up not trusting people. And so they sought the connection with animals and just find that love over and over again. Is anybody else who'd like to share? Okay.
Yes, it was my dog that...
Let's hit the mic.
Sure.
Everybody can hear you.
You know, it was my dog, not my wife, that really, truly taught me unconditional love. It's just a feeling that they give to you. It's just wonderful. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do your animals ever tell you to vote for Hillary?
Do the animals ever tell me to what?
Vote for Hillary. Are they political?
I've never been asked that question before.
Or they just want to vote for
I haven't had that experience.
Okay, well,
It's a good
look forward to
question.
it.
And I think it's because also in my mindset, I'm not political. And sometimes that's very true. I have animals scan me so they know how to talk to me. You know what I'm saying? Just like you might meet some people or at different ages, and you tender your words for how they're going to be able to understand you. And so the animals do the same thing to me. And I once had a cat. I had, this is up in Green Bay, and they brought their cat to me. It was a place that they could actually bring their animal. And it was a mother and a daughter. And they walked in the door, and the door was quite a ways away from where the table was that I was working. And I could see them walk in going, the mom is like, "Quiet! Don't you tell her anything!" The daughter's like, "Okay, Mom." Right? And so they walk in, they put the cat down in the carrier, they open the carrier, and they were sure that the cat was just going to run off. It was in this huge place. The cat sat right there and stared at me, and I could feel her scanning my brain and my body. She said, "Now I know how to talk to you, Asia, so you'll get this." I thought, okay. Right. She said, "Tell my family Acropolis." Okay? So I say to them, "Acropolis." They're like, "What's that?" And they're like, "No, we have no idea what you're talking about." Fine. So I say to the cat, "More information." The cat said, "Greece." What do you think? Your cat says Greece. They're like, "No, no, I don't know what this is." The cat finally goes, "My family is a Greek tragedy." I had recently visited Greece. And so that's how the cat knew how to talk to me. Right? So the woman says, "Well, yeah, we are a Greek tragedy." Yes, exactly. And the cat went on and said, "Daddy, after he came back from surgery on his brain, he's never been the same. I think his soul left when he had that surgery." And they went, "Oh, that's true. Oh my gosh, yes." The cat says, "He used to be the noisiest, loudest, obnoxious man, and now he just lays in that recliner all day long." And their family's like, "Yes, that's exactly true." And it went on and on and on like this. Now, if I was a scientist, the cat would have talked to me differently, right? Or if I was a politician, I'm sure I would have a whole other kind of conversation. So, yes, they also figure out how I'm going to get it. They want their message heard. Great. Okay, good. Let's move into some more questions.
Asia, you want to tell them about what you told me about your horse and the tigers?
About my horse, what?
And the tigers?
Oh, okay. Yeah, Ted came to me in Mojave. Again, another question I've never been asked. And he said, what do animals think about when they're dying and they're, being put to death or they're being slaughtered? Are they aware of that? And I said, well, yes, absolutely. Although I have not talked to any animal that was about to be slaughtered. And maybe I should. Somebody needs to be bold and get out there. I haven't done that, but I had a story about my horse who said to me, the third, rocket-powered slider, you know him intimately now. He said to me, when I die, I want you to feed my body to the tigers. I'm like, what? I said, I don't know anywhere tigers. I don't know where there's tigers. What is this about? And he says, there's tigers about 2 hours south of my house, of our house here. How on earth do you know this? It's true. Just go look it up on the internet. He sees me through the window working on the computer all the time. So anyway, I go on the internet and there's like Valley of the Kings. It's in southern Wisconsin. And they are always looking for donations to feed these tigers. I went back out in the barn, I'm like, wow, you are a genius. He's like, yeah. So he said, I don't want my body going into the ground. And this is the only animal I've had, actually in the last 6 years, I've had a lot of my animals die, that they just got old and they just all started dying at once. Some of them a few tragic accidents, but none of them ever brought that up. I was there when it was their time and they passed and they were buried and were cremated and they never, when I asked them about it, they were like, well, whatever. It didn't really matter to them. And so my horse was the only one who said, I don't want my body going into the ground. What a waste that would be. So for him, he wanted to be honored and acknowledged, and that was another gift that he could give of himself. And I think that's really the whole thing about, that being a vegetarian and eating animals. It's, we're eventually going to get eaten too. Do you know that? There was an exhibit in Chicago here of all the bugs, 600 bugs that eat the human body. And that's how they figure out murder mysteries, and that's how they know how long a body's been dead, by the bugs that are already eating you. So we're not above that, folks. Okay? And it's really all done with respect, isn't it? The right time, the right respect, and honoring. And I think that's how, when you're saying animals that are being slaughtered, it's not done respectfully. It's not done lovingly. It's done with a lot of fear and force. And that's what I'd like to see transform. Very good. Next question?
Asia, in your experience, are animals as conflicted as humans? My feeling is that humans tend to be full of anxiety, fear, and all this stuff. Do animals have that same level, or are they kind of more, what would the word be? Are they less conflicted about different things? I think we're always thinking about so many different things, worried, fear, and all this. Are animals more, you hear that animals are more, they just subsist and everything, but it seems to me that they have as many emotions as I do, and I'm just curious in your experience if you found that.
Okay. Yeah, good question. And I'm thinking about a consultation I did yesterday or the day before with a woman here in Chicago, and that her dog was very worried about the family household. And he said, we've got a water problem here, and I am very concerned about this. And the woman goes, we do have a water problem. I just replaced the hot water heater. The water meter is broken. And, we were without water. And so she's like, my God, I had no idea that my dog was that aware of these things that I would think a dog would never think about. It was completely on it or aware of, yes, this water problem that we have. So I feel that they are just as concerned and want to be involved, and maybe not always the same level of, emotions or intensity, and it depends on the animal. I mean, some of them are extremely sensitive and go through depression and sadness and anger, maybe on a daily basis. But you have some other animals that things just roll over them. That's fine, it's okay. So it's really individual, just like people, because I find animals, again, that have incredible soul development, and some of them that are just like in kindergarten, Yeah, great.
Don't you think it's partly because they feel the owner's impressions?
I think it's because probably the animals feel the person's emotions.
Okay.
For the most part, a lot of times they pick up even their physical symptoms if they're ill. And so if you're worried about the water, they're gonna feel that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And even if the animals aren't actually there, a lot of times they'll talk to me about where the person works. And that same instance, the dog said, "Why does Daddy come home and he's so sad and he pages through his mind all his employees?" The dog could see the faces of all these employees going, page, 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 page. And the absolute, was haunting that he was going through with all these faces of his employees. And the dog said, I want to know this because it's affecting me. I'm feeling his sadness, his worry, his intensity, and I'm giving pieces of it, but I want to understand the rest of it. And so she said, he has to figure out who he's laying off. And so then I showed the dog more pictures of that, and the dog's like, oh, he's having a really hard time. Who of these 15 is not going to have a job anymore? And he's the one who makes that decision. I was like, oh, well, no wonder he's been so sad. No wonder. And the dog's like, great, I can help him. I'm going to give him more love, and I'm going to work even harder. It was funny. So it was really, really neat to have the full understanding from everybody. And this woman is blown away at the intelligence and awareness that her dog has. And obviously she already loves her dog or her cat. Because, the people who don't love animals don't come and see me. They don't. And so it's really neat to be able to work with all of you and then have it go at even another level of awareness and an incredible connection. And I am amazed every day. Every single day. It doesn't end, it's great. Okay, yes?
For training dogs to, through their sense of smell, to perceive certain types of cancer. Also dogs to perceive when a person's going to have a seizure. Do you think there's more perception in dogs besides their sense of smell where that they can be detect unhealthy conditions?
Yeah, good question. And I would say yes. I have a lot of animals, and this is in my classes. They're so neat. And I love teaching that, say I'll have a situation where a person in my class, and we're going step by step. Now we have a class all day. You just have like a 5-minute taste of it here. We work on this all day long, different exercises and meditations and feedback and working on it. And sometimes I'll have a woman who will say, I really feel that I was talking to this cat, but the person says, I don't know what you're talking about, okay? It's not right. So some reason you're not making the connection. So what I can do is I can step inside of the cat's body and look at you energetically to see where the blocks are. And it's incredible. I've been doing that for probably about 4 years, not the whole time of my 9-year career, but probably in the last 4 years I've been more vivid. Where through the animal's eyes, I can see that they can see the colors, like auras, people who read auras. They can see like squiggly things or dark blotches. And then with those is a word phrase. So not only from that cat, I could look at you and go, okay, we got funky colors here, we got a black splotch in front of your heart. Okay, well, no wonder you're not picking it up correctly. And what's the word phrase with that? And I can listen to the animal, and it might be, I'm not enough, or I'm guilty.
right? Some of you have felt these things yourself, or judging. And again, we realized, or us from my near-death experience, how when we judge or we feel that we're separate, it just locks that connection. And so through these animals, looking through their eyes, I can see tons of information that is accessible to them all the time. Yeah, great, good.
That brings me to a question about you. You talked about during your own healing that you got in touch with some bad things that had happened to you, abuse, and then that you were able to move through and heal that. And I couldn't tell from what you said, did you do that just on your own, or was someone able to help you?
Yeah, I had a lot of help. And I had a woman on the east side of Madison who is a healer and therapist and body worker. And I worked with her for almost 12 years. And in the beginning, I would probably see her about 4 times a week. And I also had therapists that I saw in the hospital, but they were very mechanical. And if the mechanics of my body wasn't working, they were like, well, that's it, you can't get healed. And, well, now where do I go? You know, they didn't have anything else. And so this healer in Madison, she would do body work on me at the same time, and she could also see the blocks. She could also see energy in my body. She knew where to work on that area. And then the emotion, because I trusted her so much and knew she was so open and loving, that I could start having the emotion and start crying and saying, oh, that pain where my dad yelled at me is stuck here in my elbow. And I'd cry about it, and then I'd have homework. She'd go, okay, you know, do some art, some anger releasing, more walking, more meditation. I'd have, you know, things to work on all the time. And then my body just started waking up and healing, and the nerves came back. Yeah, oh, boy, did I work. Yeah. Yes. Okay, back here.
When my children were growing up, we had 5 cats. And the first one was Cindy. I parked the car in the garage, and my daughter met me in the garage, and she's carrying this black cat in the most uncomfortable position with the paws hanging over her arms. And I said, gee, that cat is smart to let that little girl. And my daughter said, Daddy, this is our cat. And I said, oh, no, it isn't. We're not going to have a cat around here. I was outvoted 3-1. And Cindy had a little white heart. When you mentioned the black heart, she had a white heart on her chest. And I was wondering about, they're passed on now. On the morning of the 4th of July, she had 4 baby kittens. We kept Frisky and Tuffy, and found homes for the other 2. And then at the pet store, they couldn't my wife and my daughter couldn't resist 2 more cats. So we had 5. What I was wondering about Cindy with the white mark on her chest, what that might have signified.
And you're saying that you mean like that she actually had, like in her fur, a physical mark, and
She was an all-black cat.
except for this white heart on her chest with her white fur there, and if there's something that means. And I guess unless I would actually talk to that cat, I probably just wouldn't know that, because I think there's a lot of animals that have really unique or distinct marks on them. Like my young horse, he had like a lightning bolt in his fur, and you know, you might find different calico cats or different dogs that you find that have unique markings too. And I think that to really tell you, you know, maybe sometime I could have a little chat with her. And you said she died. That's the cat that died.
Well, that was years ago. Now they've all passed on.
They've all died. Yeah, and that's something that I can address. is that it is possible to communicate with animals that have died. And one of the most unique stories is of a dog that died 37 years ago. And again, time nor distance does not matter, because really all time is one, isn't it? So if something's soul exists, it always exists. And so this woman said, she didn't have a picture of this dog, and it was actually at a kind of a meeting like this, and she told me the dog's name, and she said it's a golden retriever. So I called for the dog, and in my mind's eye, I see the dog coming forward. And I said to her, but this looks like an Irish setter to me, not a golden retriever. Well, she started crying. She said, that's what everybody said. Okay, we made contact. Yes. And so then the conversation just continued like that, piece by piece. And the dog showed me a picture of a little boy that is her son. And this child was the skinniest child I've ever seen. He was about 5 years old. And so I said, oh, I see this boy. And she said, yes, that's my son. He has a disease, and he is very skinny like that. So it went on, and it turned out that the dog said, I know you were under a lot of stress during that time, and that you didn't feel you could take care of me because of your divorce, and that you felt like you had no other choice, and that's why you put me to sleep, even though I was only 5 years old myself, yes, just like the boy, they had gotten them at the same time. And the dog said, I know you've been holding this guilt for 37 years, and you can let go of it. And I love you, and it's okay, and I'm fine. Other little questions, and I have my some books on my studio for sale. And I also am going to be teaching a basic animal communication class in Madison, Sunday, February 18th. A one-day class. I still have openings in that if you'd like some more information. But I want to thank you so much for inviting me.
We're so glad to have you here today. And she'll answer questions for a few minutes. We are going to Ruby's tonight if anyone wants to meet over there. And we hope to see you next month with Joyce Hawks. And she's a healer, a wonderful, wonderful healer. So we will see you then. Don't forget to take your trash with you when you leave, please. I am a very nasty janitor.